So today's poetry topic is similes and metaphors. So hopefully some of these things still sound familiar to you. We have topic, theme, imagery, onomatopoeia, alliteration. You do have that one page where you're collecting all of your definitions. So all of those should be on there. And the new one today would be similes. What is a simile? If you want to add that to your definition page, it would be a comparison of two unlike items using like or as. And again, if you've lost this page, you can find it on March 19th. I attached another copy of it there for you. Similes are often used as imagery to paint a picture in your head by comparing two things. And last class period, we talked about imagery. So what are some examples? Let's take a look. The newborn was like a crying baby. Would that be an example of a simile? She totally was mean to me yesterday. Is that a simile? And actually, going back, neither one of those are, because the definition of a simile, if you recall, is a comparison of two unlike things using like or as. And in these examples, a baby and a newborn are pretty much the same thing. And she totally was mean to me yesterday is slang and not appropriate ways for us to be speaking, so that's also not a simile. So here's another example. This is the baseball field. The stadium was silhouetted against the mountains. He walked in like a cat. Silence. The moonlight glittered on the turf. He glanced at the scoreboard, but the numbers were nothing but zeros. He looked all around him. Everything was as empty as the universe. He looked at the big screen, imagining himself on it. He took out a ball and threw it around, dreaming he would play in a big league game, imagining himself hitting a game-winning grand slam, the crowd roaring like a tornado. The janitor picked up his broom, and the seats were empty again. So in this particular poem, there were several examples of similes. He walked in like a cat, comparing the way a person walks to that of a cat, two unlike things. Everything was as empty as the universe, comparing everything to the universe. And the crowd roaring was like a tornado. So again, comparing a crowd to a tornado. All examples of similes because they are comparing two unlike things using like or as. Fiery fury fills my day. My head feels as soft as clay. A high-pitched piercing peal, screaming sensational, yet surreal. So that one, if you look at that example there, my head feels as soft as clay, comparing a head to clay. Again, two unlike things. And here's another one. My mother is like an owl. She stays up late at night, waiting for me, spying on me, asking me, who? Who were you talking to? Who else was there? Who? And she knows it all. So this title right there is an example, comparing a mother to an owl. Again, two unlike things. My mother is like braces. Yes, she is a pain to deal with, but she straightens me out. Once again, two unlike things, a mother and braces. This is very interesting. Then we have something called a metaphor, and this is a comparison between two unlike things not using like or as. So very similar to a simile, but you're not using those keywords of like or as. Stating that something is another thing. For example, my sister is a pit bull. So how is a metaphor different? My sister is like a pit bull, uses the word like, again, comparing two unlike things, but that would be a simile. My sister is a pit bull is a metaphor. So using the words like or as is a big distinguishing feature of a simile. Jason was a beast on the basketball court, comparing Jason to a beast. That's another example of a metaphor. I don't see like or as anywhere in that sentence. Jason was as tough as a beast on the basketball court. If you look at that one, that's definitely an example of a simile because it's comparing Jason to the beast again using like or as. So which do you think is stronger, using a simile or using a metaphor? I guess it depends on how it's used. So are these metaphors? My little brother is a crying baby. Are those two unlike things? A little brother and a baby? Again, probably not. Our school is a place of learning. That's definitely not two unlike things. You're supposed to be learning at school. So, some more examples here. Jack is a tiger. If you guess that one right, that would be an example of a metaphor. Middle school is a nightmare. Another example of a metaphor. Again, not using like or as, comparing two unlike things. Her brilliant white teeth shine like the sun. There we are comparing teeth to the sun. Using the word like, that's an example of a simile. School is a prison, comparing school to prison, and is being the example of, that is bridging the two words, so that was an example of a metaphor. Saying one thing is another, two unlike things. Homework is torture, same thing there. Saying one thing is another, and without using like or as, that's a metaphor. Books are like my friends. If you guess that one right, that is a simile. Like or as, comparing two unlike things. Ogres are like onions. Again, another example of a simile. So, my son is a bat. That's another example of a metaphor. And if you look at this poem right here, my son is a bat. His eyes blink when darkness comes. His body stirs with life. His limbs gorge with blood as he sets out through the cave of night. His roof the stars. The moon a big white eye watching. Attracted by the false lights. He mingles with his batty friends, weaving in and out of nightclubs. Endless parties, each other's places, till sensing the sudden ebb of darkness. He flutters homes, a cloaked Dracula, to the hollow of his room, where he will sleep all day. So, again, what two things are being compared here? Jack is a tiger, comparing Jack to the tiger. And what does that mean? What are we trying to say about Jack? Middle school is a nightmare. Obviously, we're comparing middle school and nightmare. What does that mean? Middle school is not a fun place. And her teeth shine like the sun. What two things are being compared? Teeth and sun. What does that mean? We're trying to say maybe her teeth are very bright. School is a prison. What two things are being compared? School and prison. And I guess we're trying to say school isn't a very fun place to be. Homework is torture. What two things are being compared? Obviously, homework and torture. I guess we're trying to say that homework isn't very fun. And books are like my friends. We're comparing books to friends. Again, two unlike things. And what does that mean? We're very familiar and friendly with books. Ogres are like onions. We're comparing ogres to onions. What does that mean? Maybe perhaps they both smell